Hi, I'm Christina.
I'm Maya from Book and Dreams.
And welcome to a new video. So today we are filming our December wrap-up. So these are all the books that we've read in December. I read a total of 10 books and like the five little novellas, which we are gonna kind of keep from you for just a tiny bit of time because we have something planned for that. And out of the 10 books, I think I'm gonna talk about roughly 7 because others are part of other projects, so you know.
In December, I read technically six, and 2 for the secret project thing. So that's like 8. But 6. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Imago Ultima by David Kelicic. I always keep forgetting the name. So this is one of the books that I bought during the online Interliebe book fair. This is a bunch of books that I bought from Hunger 7, who are awesome. But look at the awesome cover. So basically this is a collection of Croatian SF short stories by the author. And before every story there is a short overview and history of science fiction in Croatia, and it definitely makes you want to explore more of the Croatian authors and speculative fiction that is written in these područje area. Thank you. Anyway, as I said, collection of short stories. I liked some of them. All of them have problematic female characters because it seemed like the female characters are either virgins who want to have sex, or whores, or like just such caricatures, and it was really kind of like you're reading it. And the thing is, each story has a very interesting mythological element that is connected to Croatian traditions and culture, and it's interesting, and then the female characters happen, and that kind of just sort of dampens the whole experience. But overall, I enjoyed it, and I have a full-length novel from this author, so I'm looking forward to reading it and seeing if maybe the female characters are better in that one.
Yeah, I also read this, but you can check my review on Instagram because I posted it as pictures. So I'm gonna start off with the second, third, and fourth novella in the Murderbot Diaries series by Martha Wells. So this is a series that has 4 novellas and now a novel that talks about a cyborg security unit that has hacked its governor module and is now independent and has dubbed itself Murderbot. What is specific about Murderbot is that it loves soap operas. It is very cynical, very antisocial, yes. It doesn't like people, although over the course of the series you actually kind of watch as Murderbot develops different emotions, feelings, finds out what it wants, what it needs. So you almost have like a development of a human, but it's a cyborg. And I actually really loved that part where you see that it doesn't want to care about humans, but it cannot help itself to help them and to care for them. And the first 4 novellas are kind of an overarching plot, and the final novella, Exit Tragedy, really kind of concludes it really well. That is actually the favorite novella out of all the 4 that I've read. So definitely I would recommend the series as a whole. In general, it's really fun. There's a lot of action, but there's also like character development. You get also really interesting side characters like Art, who is
asshole research transport.
So it's a ship basically. That's it, but I loved it and would totally recommend it.
So the next book I want to talk about is The House in the Cerulean Sea by T.J. Klune, which is a sort of fan favorite of everyone on BookTube this year. So this is a story in which we follow Linus Baker, who works as a caseworker, so like a social worker, in the department in charge of magical youth. And he is set to investigate an orphanage that is being handled by... Fallen camera! So as I said, he's sent to check in on an orphanage that is being handled by a man called Arthur, in which there are 6 very different magical youths, including the Antichrist, and his job is basically to see if they are being well taken care of. This book is so wonderful, which was surprising because TJ Klune is not really famous for writing those kinds of stories. It's just... that was my like only note for this book. It's wonderful. It's just there's not superfluous drama or like soap opera things. It's just basically 2 people, older people, because they're both in their 40s, just sort of meeting and, you know, getting to know each other, and Linus getting to know the children, and, you know, not being afraid of anyone, and just making sure that everyone is fine. It's just so heartwarming and everything, and just definitely I would recommend it if you're in a funk or some kind. Just read this. It's just wonderful and just make you feel better. You should definitely check it out because it's really cool book.
The next thing I read are 3 books in the Spindle Cove series by Daswhood. So I read Beauty and the Blacksmith and the Duchess Will Do and Lord Dashwood Missed Out. Those are numbers 3.5, 4, and 4.5, so 2 novellas and a novel. So Spindle Cove is a series of historical romances where we follow the women of Spindle Cove, which is a place where women come that are deemed, let's say, inappropriate for society. So they either have like a birthmark or
Wow.
like a birthmark, but like, I don't know, it on your face, and they're considered ugly because of it, or they want to have a profession, like as we have Minerva, who wants to be a geologist.
Oh yeah.
Or, you know, like so different kind of things like that. But we follow both over the course of the series. We follow both the kind of highborn ladies, like the sisters Highwood, and we follow also the working class. Like we have what do we have? We have a
blacksmith.
Yeah, I mean, the girls are also working class. We have a waitress. We have what did I write? A music teacher. So not high class, but like you know, working people. And so the first novella is Beauty and the Blacksmith. So this is about Diana Highwood and the blacksmith Aaron. This is just a short novella where they kind of solidify their relationship because they already have feelings for each other at that point, and it's just a novella where the Diana kind of accepts that she has an illness, but she hasn't had any sort of reaction.
What illness does she have?
She has some kind of pains. I think it's like asthma or something. It has something to do with lungs.
Okay.
But she hasn't had any kind of, you know, like reactions or anything for the past 2 years. So she kind of got well, right, let's say, and she gains self-confidence and stands up to her mom, says, stop, you know, cuddling me, I'm fine, I can be on my own, I can choose what I want.
Okay.
So it's more about that, and there's some very funny awkward moments where she kind of says, I can be a blacksmith's wife, so she tries to cook an eel and ends up kind of in tears because she doesn't even know how to, you know, like put on a fire, let alone deal with an eel. So there were some funny moments there. Then we have Any Duchess Will Do. I absolutely love this one. This is about Pauline, who is a waitress, and Griffin, who is a duke, and he kind of, they have an arrangement, like an engagement of convenience. He wants his mom to back off. She wants to get £1,000 so she can open her kind of traveling library, and she wants to take care of her sister, who I think is on the autism spectrum. It is not specifically said, but it is in there, and they're kind of shunned by society because as they say, the society, her sister is dumb. You know, so, and one of the things I really liked is that the Duke doesn't consider her sister to be that, and treats her with respect as if she's any other person. I don't know. There's like an instance where he kisses her hand as if she's a highborn lady, and you know, like Pauline really appreciates that. There's a lot of, you know, like um, humorous drama and situations, because basically Pauline is taking the Mickey out of it, because the point is that she has to prove that she can't be a duchess.
Ah, okay.
So there's a lot of like funny moments, and the relationship between Griffin and his mom is really beautiful, because they're kind of keeping something from each other. And Pauline is trying to explain to them, you just have each other, just talk. And you know, so that was awesome. And then we have Lord Dashwood Missed Out, which is like the one I least liked, because it was about Nora and George, and Nora kind of wrote this pamphlet that made her famous because she felt scorned by George because he didn't marry her, or you know,
Were they supposed to
courted her. She thought there was something there, and then he just kind of buzzed off.
Okay.
And went traveling around the world, so she was feeling scorned, so she wrote this and she became famous. And the banter in the beginning was really fun, but it just didn't sit well with me, because it felt like she was, you know, still pining for him. And
what was the pamphlet about? Like Men Suck pamphlet, or just
it didn't actually specifically say what it was, just that it, I don't know, she called it Lord Ashwood and he is Lord Dashwood, and it was obvious that she was talking about him. So like this whole pamphlet thing was really just, the idea of the pamphlet was basically that girls should be self-confident, not rely on a man, but the moment she sees him again, she's like, oh, I need a man and I need you. And although she's like trying to convince herself, no, but you know, he's hung. And it just didn't sit well with me. It just didn't sit well, because like Tessa Dare usually has all of these heroines that are really independent, self-confident, know what they want, they're gonna fight for it, and she just didn't feel like it. She felt very stereotypical of that kind of, I don't know if it's Regency or some, but like that kind of era.
Okay.
You know, that's it.
So the next book I'm going to talk about is book 2 in the Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series by Laurel K. Hamilton. It's called The Laughing Corpse. So Anita Blake is a necromancer. This is an urban fantasy series. So she's a necromancer, which means she can raise the dead, like zombies or stuff, and she can control them, make them talk and everything. And basically she uses them to, uses her power to, you know, sometimes help the police. You know, she works for a company that basically hires out her services, so you know they can you know solve some fights and you know some family troubles, like if a person dies and there's no will, so they bring her so she can bring up the dead, and it's like, okay, who are you leaving the house to, and so on. So in book 2 we follow her as a very, very rich man offers her a lot of money to raise a very, very old zombie. But the rule for this is the older the zombie, the biggest the sacrifice has to be. So to raise a very, very old zombie, you have to kill a human, and this is something that Anita doesn't do. But then someone else raises the zombie, and the zombie goes on a killing spree. So Anita goes looking for the zombie and trying to find out who did it, how they did it, and how to stop the zombie, because you know, the older you are, the crazier you are, the more powerful you are, and everything. This was such a, I read this looking for like paranormal romance, because there is sort of an overarching in the first couple of books sort of relationship between Anita and a master vampire in, I think they're in New Orleans. But in the first couple of books is more like detective noir kind of a thing. So which it was very, I mean, the case was really good, very interested. I was constantly reading, didn't really bother that much with romance. So when some tiny thing happened, in their sort of relationship that was kind of, it was, oh, okay, cool, but I was more focused on the romance, which is kind of new for me, because I'm usually reading this because I want to read romance. But anyway, very good urban fantasy book. Definitely recommend to anybody who likes it. Urban fantasy, and vampires and necromancers and stuff.
The next book I'm going to talk about is Edge of Eternity by Ken Follett. I have finally finished this freaking book that I've been reading for 3 months. So this is the last book in the Century Trilogy. So this focuses on 1961 to 1989. That is the Cold War. So from putting up the Berlin Wall to kind of, pulling it down. And it follows stories of several families, which I'm not gonna tell you who they are, because there's
you have to read the first 2 books.
Six of them, and these are the great grandchildren of the people from the first book, and it's a whole. Basically, it's kind of a family saga, but you don't necessarily need to know anything from the first 2 books to actually read this. There's nothing very, So, and this kind of covers the US, USSR, the UK, and there's stints in Cuba, Vietnam. So,
the whole history.
it's the Cold War. It felt a bit unbalanced, because some events you were very focused on them, and there was a lot of detail, while some were basically just glossed over and in 2 sentences, okay, this happened, and moving on. So I realize it's fiction, it's not a non-fiction, so you would have to, but it felt like if you were doing this 1,000-page book where you focus on that you could, but at the same time, so many things happened. It was crazy. The amount of events in there was, also there was just this one thing I really was bothered by. There was for me, a very unnecessary, very graphic rape scene in Vietnam.
Okay.
So, it just felt so out of place and so shocking in the book. It was just I don't know. I was very disgusted.
Wasn't there anything in the first book? Is them building a church, right?
No, that's
another series.
The Millennium. The first book is the First World War.
Oh, so wasn't there anything like that in the first or second book?
No, he tends to have unnecessary sex scenes, but this was just really gruesome because it involved rape, murder, and group rape, and it was just it felt so unnecessary. You could, if you had a commentary on what is happening in Vietnam, I just think it could have been done less, in a less disgusting way or less graphic way, because this was really gosh, I was really, it just, I don't know, it just bothered me to, I don't know. That's all I got from the book. That's all I remember, and it's still I'm but overall I really like Ken Follett. He has but all of his books are this expansive world, epic, yes, historical fiction, so they take a long time to get through. But overall, it was fine. There were some instances where I think the characters were very conveniently very close to very important
I remember you talked about
aid to Martin Luther King, aid the lover of JFK, and stuff like that. So it was, but at the same time, it's kind of accurate. At least I checked for JFK. One of the characters is actually based on a lover, JFK's lover, that actually existed, and there were events that actually happened with her. So, it's a toss-up between, okay, it's too convenient and it's technically what happened. So, yeah, that's it.
So before I go to my last book, I'll just shortly mention the 2 books that I forgot to tell you I read. So I read the 2 novellas in Gail Carriger's Parasol Protectorate series, which is a steampunk urban fantasy kind of a series. So I read Poison or Protect and Defy or Defend, which both novellas follow 2 human characters. with sort of side characters, all the supernatural beings that we meet in the universe of the series. So in each of them, basically, we have two opposite characters, sort of coming together in various situations, and it's hilarious. It's ridiculous. It's a Gail Carriger book, and it was a fun read. So yeah, and the last book I read is I finally finished Merchants of Doubt by Naomi Oreskes and Eric M. Conway, in which basically it's we have actually she read it before me, so I will put a video of what she thinks about the book. Basically, it's a collection of stories which depict how a tiny group of scientists and people who have found themselves in very powerful positions have influenced how the world thinks on various topics that are important to humanity, like climate change, acid rain, tobacco, and what was there was a pesticide one, which was completely ridiculous. Just it was fascinating.
Oh, right.
And sometimes it was sometimes felt like you were reading textbook.
Yeah.
Which kind of sucks, but not like a school textbook, but like a scientific textbook. But yeah, other than that, it was scary to see how like a small group of people can manipulate and can influence something so important. Just basically like 3 people convinced the leadership of America, like, climate change is not important because it won't affect us. We don't have to deal with it. Because it was very difficult for them to tell them, like, well, it's not gonna to convince them, okay, it's not affecting us, but it will affect people 20 years from now, 30 years from now, and it will be much worse. And it was just so
I still remember, like, one thing that stuck to me from that book was a scene with one of the officials, high-ranking officials of the US, who asked the scientist, when is this change going to affect people? And the scientist says, in 50 years. And the official says to him, okay, call me in 49.
Yeah.
So
non-fiction.
And the final book I want to talk to you about is a bit different, let's say. It's a non-fiction. It's called How Dogs Think by Stanley Korn. So this was a book originally published in 2004. So I can't say that this is like, the latest that we know of dogs. But I found it very interesting because it doesn't try to tell you, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, this is right, this is wrong. It focuses more on explaining to you how a dog functions.
Okay.
It's like you had like a biology textbook and somebody told you, people learn something this way, they see these types of colors and that's why they see them that way. So this is what he does with dogs.
So the dogs see color or not?
They see certain colors. They see yellow and blue.
Okay.
Red is black to them.
All right.
And others are just shades of blue and yellow.
All right. Okay.
So if you throw,
yes, we have a very green bone that we keep playing with him, and we're like, he can't see it. Like, how come? So,
yeah. But I found it really interesting because it just explains how why their sense of smell is so important, or why how they see the colors, how they smell, how they hear, how they learn stuff, how you can train them in the sense why some things work, why some things don't. There's a part about the dogs the helping dogs, like with earthquakes, guide dogs, working dogs, like for earthquakes, for missing people and stuff like that. So it was just really interesting to and the one thing, it's not a book where he kind of just spits out everything he knows. Mm-hmm. There's like a bibliography, there's like actual resources. He tells you this was concluded based on this research, and this was based on this research, and it's written in a really in a way that's for regular people. There's not a lot of scientific
jargon. Pages of literature,
There's not a lot of scientific jargon.
Mhm.
He really explains it easily for everyone to understand, I think. And just, I actually really liked it. It was very informative.
Cool.
Yeah.
So that is it for our December wrap up. If you've read any of the books that we have and you want to share your opinion, please feel free to do so in the comments down below. Some important links will be in the description box, so please check them out.
Please like, share, subscribe. As Maya said,
Stuff down below.
Comment down below. Did you say that? I don't know.
I
Comment
did.
down below.
And thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in our next video.
Bye.
Bye.